Hi guys. Well, today is Friday the 24th of April 2026 and it is now 4 minutes past 10 at night. It's a very special anniversary for Yah and myself. It was 18 years ago on this day, so 24th of April 2008, that I picked Yah and Michelle up from the Sydney airport to spend the weekend, the ANZAC Weekend that year, out at my home at 2 Tulip Close, Bowral. So it was 1975 years, the reunification between Jesus and Martha being myself. So yes, I remember being at the airport and leaning against a column, watching the overhead bridge for the arrivals, and there was Yah. He came striding out with his laptop bag, and he just walked over to me and just looked at me and said, "You're much." It was you look much better than I actually remember. Okay. And he was so tall, of course. And then I met Michelle for the first time. She'd gone straight out to curbside to have a cigarette. It was an interesting, just the things that went through my mind. And of course I couldn't hide any of it from Yah. But yes, upon that first meeting after Yah, and anyway, the drive back out to get some lunch at the White Horse Inn. Hello! The White Horse Inn in Berrima. That was funny. Yah complaining about the price of the sandwiches, but keeping the receipts for everything so that he could work on the numbers when we got back to Tulip Close. And it's a habit. I keep receipts for everything now. They're really good for timing. It's evidence to prove where you were at a certain time. Of course, the numbers tell the story in my world. So, yes, 18 years ago, and the reason for the reunification was that I'd phoned him after we got into the habit of speaking every day over the phone once I found him. And the first conversation was the morning after Adam's 17th birthday, when I just picked up and said, "Michelle Nye," and I was put through within 30 seconds. And Michelle had left to go dancing, and Yah answered the phone, "Hello," in his telephone voice. And he knew, actually, he had been waiting for Martha to find him. And it was an uh-oh moment when that phone call took place, because he knew that all hell would break loose, and it certainly did. The heavenly hosts had orchestrated this moment in time when I would find him and we would reconnect. And yeah, all hell did break loose through those weeks that followed that. But anyway, it's all part of the DVD. I call it a heavenly DVD. And yes, so I'd phoned and said, "Do you do invitations?" And he laughed and said, "Yes." And I had complimentary tickets to the opening night of the Milk Factory Gallery in Bowral, where 3 of my paintings were going to be hung along with everybody else's. So in my mind it was, okay, we'll come. And in my world, because I paralleled everything, this was a public opening, Yah being there that night. And it was on the 26th. It was a Saturday in 2008. It was like Yah going public for the first time. And yes, so we'll take a look at the photographs of 18 years ago, this weekend, the ANZAC Weekend. I'll show you. Oh, did I close them already? I'll pause this and I'll get them back. Alright, I found them. Okay, So here was Yah on that weekend in the courtyard at 2 Tulip Close. Now, what's interesting is that months before, I moved in with Adam to Tulip Close in July 2007, and then within days I left on another trip to go back to Canada and then Colorado, looking for the Christ on the earth. So I actually had 2 trips back there that year, July and the October. When Adam and I, we would, well, we would get in the car and just drive, following the signs, always searching, always in tune to the information that was coming to us. And I remember it was months before this weekend. At night, we're standing in the courtyard, and Adam says to me, Mum, who's Malachi? I said, well, Malachi was a prophet 400 years before Jesus came onto the earth. So it's the last book of the Old Testament with a 400-year break before the New Testament. He says, because Malachi is telling me that the Lord himself will stand in this place. Now that night, Adam and I were, we would put a shawl or whatever over our heads and like a prayer shawl. And so this night we'd been standing out looking at the stars when Adam heard this, and he told me. So this photograph is taken at the fulfillment of the Lord himself standing in that courtyard. I'll show you what Tulip Close looks like from the street. There it is, the front door, the path leading down, and then the fence you can see between the garage there, and that was actually Adam's bedroom, the windows on this side of the fence, and behind it being the courtyard where Yah was sitting when that photograph was taken. And Adam and I, the night that Malachi spoke to him, we were standing with our back to this wall here where the clothesline you can see there. We had our back to the wall looking out into the night sky when Malachi spoke to him to give him that information. So this weekend, being the ANZAC Weekend, ANZAC is the Memorial Day, as I explained, where all of Australia stops to honour the servicemen and women from all of the wars, beginning with World War I, and the sacrifices that they made throughout the last 120 odd years. So that's Tulip Close, and of course to Tulip Close, the address, I knew before I found him that Yah's nickname was Tulips. And then if you remember the story of Yah being lined up as a small boy by his much older sister, having to kiss all of the girls her age and judging who was the best. So he was nicknamed Tulips. Here is that opening night on the 26th of April. It was a Saturday, 2008. The 3 paintings that were hung in the Milk Factory Gallery. On the left, the Apostles. In the middle, Spring is in the Air. And the last one I painted before I found Yah, in the beginning was Thought, and it is gilt-edged. And in my mind, I couldn't help it. It was just these spheres like bubbles, but in the midnight darkness of a really deep purple sky. And when Yah explained to me that the creation was like releasing a bottle cap of soda water and all of the bubbles rising up at once to escape, just like these spheres that I'd painted about 2 weeks before I found him. And it was, let me get back, it was being at the 9/11 Truth Conference 2 weeks before this, no, not 2 weeks before this weekend, but 2 weeks before I found Yah, the 9/11 Truth Conference, beside the synagogue where Mossad was next door, Elizabeth Street, Sydney. March the 15th we were there, 15th and 16th I think it was. Adam had organised it, and so he and I were there with David Clues, and David met another man, another Al, and it was Al who sent through the video link of Nostradamus 13, sent it through to David. David sent it to my Hotmail account and left the message on the phone that I got on the night of Adam's birthday. He'd fallen asleep at my mother's house, and so I was at home alone to get the voice message. And seriously, I had never been onto the YouTube. I didn't really know what it was, but David messaged saying, oh my God, I sent you a link. And he was talking about the fellow down in Melbourne who says that he's God, and of course it was Yah, and I'd found him after almost 9 years of looking for him on the earth, knowing that when I found him I would be trumpeting that he was already here, and that the whole world had been already deceived about just how he would come. And I already knew, because the motivations were the same as at the cross, the rejection. And of course, the rejected capstone to the Great Pyramid being the altar to the Lord in the midst of Egypt. So, yes, Yah had to be rejected. And he did go out of his way. He arrived at the conclusion earlier on in his life that the prophecy was he'd be rejected, so why be nice about it? And yes, so Yah had no qualms at telling somebody where to go. He hated more than anything else the My Jesus crowd. My Jesus wouldn't do this. My Jesus wouldn't say that. Well, actually, on that opening night at the milk factory, there was a crowd of people. Yah remembers having a decent conversation with David Clue's father. His name was Robert, from memory. And he had no problem with the information that Yah was telling him. However, I had become quite close to a woman called Dot. And they like to follow Judaism, Christian, but you know, the Sabbath and Friday night dinners and all kinds of things, and very religious. So I'd already set the cat amongst the pigeons just by my how I was, my relationship with the Lord, that I regarded as the invisible man that I'd spent 14 years in a cave with. Well, as it turns out, he's my husband, and that's the way I related to him before I actually found him. So Yah had warned me about how angry he gets when he hears my Jesus. And yeah, so I had told Dot that he's coming, and she, total unbelief and all the rest of it, but she got up the courage to go over to him and start talking to him, and she happened to talk about my Jesus. Oh my God. Well, Yah let the F word fly at her, and that would be enough. Well, it did. She was so shocked because of course, my Jesus wouldn't say anything like that. And that's exactly why Yah did it, because I'm not your Jesus. And Dot came running over to me, and I didn't hear it. She just came, and face as red as a beetroot, and she had to flee. she fled the event. So, that was it between Dot and myself, although I did end up sending her an email after the fact, and I told her right out that she was treated like a slave by her husband, who took full advantage of her. Anyway, I said this, having found and I just let her know the honest truth about the treatment, her husband had over her and the hold and all that kind of thing, and yes, she probably hasn't recovered all these 18 years later. But anyway, so all hell broke loose, and it just devolved amongst family members from there. For a while, the rejection prophecy certainly kicked in, but that particular weekend was a lot of fun. My mother and my sister came and sat at Yah's feet, and Michelle sat in the courtyard smoking cigarettes and reading, was it Barbara Cartland novels or something like that, not partaking of any of the conversations. And I remember my mother saying to me after, because she went outside to sit with Michelle and talk with her, and she said to me later that she said that Yah sounded like me. She didn't say I sounded like him in his conversation and the way he talked and talked about numbers and all kinds of things. She said that he sounded like me, and that she had picked up immediately that there was something wrong with Mary, because Michelle was Mary. Something wrong with Mary. It doesn't fit there. And of course it didn't. It didn't in 33 AD, and it didn't in this life. And so the mystery and the story, the backstory, I would say it's like the Peyton Place. There's the backstory. You've got what's written in the scriptures, in which there is no life. Jesus speaking. He berated the Bereans at the time, because they were continually searching the scriptures, being the scrolls at that time, while rejecting him as the Word of God, being the soul of the Father himself in the younger body of flesh, as he's speaking as the Word of God, totally rejecting him, thinking that there is life in the scriptures. And the Bible is actually the writings of dead men. It's dead letter. And people willing to die for it and reject the one who was the Word of God, as I'd always say. It's the soul walking around in a body of flesh, 2 legs walking. He is the book, which is what the Bible means. It means book. So, dead men's letters, and reject the one who is comforting and explaining all things and teaching us. So this video is to have a chat with you and to thank you all for all your recent emails to me. This year is going really fast, and so much has occurred. After the storm message went out, Adam's storm message and the revelations and everything was going on. Of course, we had the microcosm occurring here of the storm, the macrocosm that's occurring in the world, beginning on the 28th of February and continuing. Oh, there's one other thing I just wanted to show you. The difference between somebody who is driven by ego and, think about the fallen, as in angels, whatever you like. Oops, this happens all the time, right? Fallen or ego-driven versus soul, you are soul. Well, not everybody operates from soul. And ego causes the conflict around the planet. No matter where we are, no matter where you are, no matter what's going on, no matter who you're listening to, ego. And Noah Webster makes it very clear how to discern what we are listening to, whether it's from ego or soul. So I'll pause this and come back with Noah. Alright, so we've got egotist. What does Noah have to say? One who repeats the word I very often in conversation or writing. One who speaks much of himself or magnifies his own achievements. One who makes himself the hero of every tale. I'm thinking about POTUS right now. Now, let's... Egotism. The practice of too frequently using the word I, hence a speaking or writing much of oneself, self-praise, self-commendation, the act or practice of magnifying oneself or making one's self of importance. Hello, egotistic, because of course we talk, addicted to egotism. So let's look up narcissist to see. Narcissus. It's actually a plant. I don't think narcissism. No, it's not a word that exists in. Right, but let's look at soul. You are soul. Are you? Do you operate from soul or ego? Ego equals all the problems around the globe occurring today. The spiritual, rational and immortal substance in man which distinguishes him from brutes. That part of man which enables him to think and reason and which renders him a subject of moral government. The immortality of the soul is a fundamental article of the Christian system. Such is the nature of the human soul that it must have a God, an object of supreme affection. Number 2, the understanding, the intellectual principle. Number 3, the vital principle. Number 4, spirit, essence, chief part, as charity, the soul of all virtues. Emotion is the soul of eloquence. Number 5, life, animation, principle or part, as an able commander is the soul of an army. Number 6, internal power. There is some soul of goodness in evil, in things evil. And number 7, a human being, a person. Number 8, animal life. Number 9, active power, and heaven would fly before the driving soul. That occurred recently, January, as Adam was driven, as he was commanding, and all heaven was going before him, before his driven soul, as he was making his way down south. And by the time he got there, the exorcism had already occurred. Number 10, spirit, courage, fire, grandeur of mind. Number 11, generosity, nobleness of mind, a colloquial use. Number 12, an intelligent being. Every soul in heaven shall bend the knee. Number 13, heart, affection. The soul of Jonathan was knit with the soul of David. Number 14, in Scripture, appetite as the fool's soul or the hungry soul. Number 15, a familiar compilation of a person, but often expressing some qualities of the mind, as alas, poor soul, he was a good soul. So the difference you now discern between somebody who operates from ego versus soul. Actually, when I found Yah and that photograph, let's go back. Oh, well, the photograph in the courtyard, he was looking very grey and feeling very old. And I already knew that the vessel, when I found him, he would be 64 and Yah was 64. But yeah, he was tired beyond belief. The burden of proving his existence and the teachings, and of course it all started before he left Canada. It all started June the 17th, 1990, as we have gone through. And, you know, working with a physical atlas in the measuring of all things, and then almanacs, and then the measure and the drawings that Yah did using an IBM 286 computer with about 512 megabytes of storage, such as they were in those days. So yes, the weight and the burden of proving his existence in this time, not something that he took lightly. It was actually something he tried to get out of. I'll just keep doing what I'm doing until whoever it is comes along. Of course, he just dug his own grave, if you like, deeper and deeper, because everything he revealed just came straight back to him. There was no escaping it. Yah was never impressed by those who always wanted to be somebody famous from history. Because Yah certainly didn't want the burden of who he is, not in this life. And since he's on the other side of the veil, seeing all, knowing all, there's been correction, because I would go to him and ask him, does this still stand while you were this side of the veil? Our sight, of course, is so limited, and there is so much noise and interference, and and Yah in particular, as the information would be downloaded into him as he arrived at a point in time, and he would have a thought and then the marvelous threads. And so as soon as he departed, October the 3rd, 2022 at 7:37 p.m., I was hearing him oh so clearly, because, you know, it's about 40 days that they're around, a soul is around before going. And yeah, he made very clear to me things that he got wrong once he was on the other side of the veil, and they were like, oh my God, tell them this, tell them that. And it was bringing correction where, to bring correction And it didn't bode lightly for those who were, had elevated themselves, speaking about themselves as if they were, I hated it. Absolutely hated it. And so, yes, bringing correction. And one who had to be brought into line actually died some time ago now, but they were taken out of the picture, and the one that was left behind still making presumptions that are not accurate, not to be trusted at all, and quite frankly I'd been told that they would not be given information like that. So trust no one. I know a couple of thinking about you, Barbara, your emails. Yeah, it's not safe to trust anybody, especially if they're asking you the kinds of things that you have emailed me about. Heiko, thank you for your emails. It's a joy to hear from you lately. And Rez, you've sent a couple of emails. I said I would read them, but I'm not going to for my own reasons. And Catherine. Oh, what a joy to have Catherine back in my life. Of course, Catherine was a witness here at the time of Benedict. She was she'd come out from the USA and was staying with us, and did stay for a few weeks, but here to witness Pope Benedict's recognition of Yahweh and everything that was going down behind the scenes then, and overcoming her own struggles. Absolutely, that's what it's all about, and that's what you've written to me about in Rez and Heiko. But Catherine sent me an email in November, and it was right in line of the clues Yah was having me follow at that time. And she's been faithful to write to me at any time when clues, sending me clues, they keep coming. Cynthia, you sent me an email. It was good to hear from you too, and I'm glad to hear from you. As you all persist, you are all faithful and true. You are all humble in heart, not elevating yourselves, but humble in heart as the faithful and true. Many of you have been through so much, remaining faithful and true. I think of Andrea Anna at this time, because not only is it the 18-year anniversary, but it's the 13-year anniversary where Yah and I arrived in Frankfurt, Germany on April the 22nd. Andrea Anna picked us up. We spent 3 nights at her apartment, and then she drove all of us down to Marino, where we were staying. Andrea stayed on for a couple of weeks, but we went via Turin, went to see the Shroud of Turin at the museum, which is where they hold the copy. And of course we were not allowed, the Christ himself, whose image that it is, was not allowed to see the original, which is housed at the chapel in Turin. He didn't qualify. You had to be of the church hierarchy to be allowed in there. So the videos are still on the YouTube somewhere, of those shorts that Andrea Anna took of us at that time. It was a wonderful time. We really enjoyed being in company with Andrea. And our adventures in Rome and the Vatican, and doors opening when they were locked, and Anna, yes, she witnessed a few things that she thought were miracles, and they are. There's no explanation. I didn't have an explanation. Okay. Alright, so just a chatty video. 18-year anniversary, reunification, and the 13 year being in Italy, arriving in Germany. Because we were there for a total, we were there from April until December of that year. And yes, April, May, in my world, dates are filled with anniversaries in memory of my darling husband and our, at that time, beginning of our time together. All right, later, Gators.